On January 3rd, 2016, I stood in that pulpit and delivered my first sermon as pastor here at Central. It was titled, "Sing to the Lord a New Song." It was a sermon based on this psalm that we read this morning. And it shared my hopes that through our relationship together, we would create a gospel song that worships God in a unique way, enlivens our souls, lifts the fallen, restores the broken, and heals the hurting. It's been fun to relive our memories together over these past couple weeks, to celebrate, to give thanks for our time together. And I really want to thank you for the banquet from last week. The gifts and the sentiments were very much appreciated. And as I said, it's a nice time to celebrate what we've done together as a group. But this morning, I want to end as I began. And that is on a note of hope. We've been through a lot, and we've done a lot together. But when I reflect on what I have tried to convey here as pastor at Central, I hope that you've received a few things from my ministry. And three things have really have come to light for me. First, for you to know that the presence of God is all around you and also within you. That's one of the big things that I've tried to convey in my time as pastor here. Know that you are God-filled, and so is all of creation. We're all divine. Divinity is all around us. Sometimes we might not feel it, we might not experience it, we might not realize it. But God and Christ is always present in this Christ-soaked world, as I like to say, from the words of Richard Rohr. We live in a Christ-soaked world. And sometimes we don't experience it, but God is there with arms wide open, just waiting for us to return. So I want you to know your own divinity and also the divinity of the world around us, because that affects how we experience the world and experience God and experience our faith. So I hope that through our time together, you've experienced the presence of God that is within you and all around you. A second thing that I hope I've been able to convey is that resurrection is a recurring act that occurs every moment of every day. Christ died and was resurrected, was brought back. We celebrate that each and every Easter. But it's not a one-time thing. Resurrection is not something that happened 2,000 years ago and that was it. Many of the early Christians believed that creation was the first gospel, and that everything we read in our gospel can be experienced in nature. Resurrection is a truth of the natural world. Things die and new things are birthed out of that death. We experience death and resurrection moment by moment. And then we're going through things. When we have bad things happen in our lives, when we don't understand something, when we're struggling, when we're hurting, we can have faith that is not the end of our story. That we worship a God that doesn't allow death to have the final say. We can have faith that a resurrection is coming, that new life is being born. We just have to be open to it and allow it to happen and see what we're supposed to learn through the process so that in this new life, we'll be more wise than we were in the previous one. I believe in resurrection, and I believe resurrection occurs moment by moment. And I hope that has come through in my ministry. And then lastly, I hope I've been able to convey that our faith meets us where we are, and it speaks to our current situation. Now, this is an area where I've gotten in a little trouble in my time here. I don't believe we have a static faith. I don't believe we come to church just to be a part of a club, just to sit here and receive words that were given to us 2,000 years ago and have nothing to say about the world in which we live. We worship a living God. We worship a resurrected Christ, a Christ that is still alive today. And if we believe that the presence of God is all around us and within us, and if we believe that resurrection is a moment-by-moment reoccurring event, then God has something to say about the world in which we live. God has something to say about what is going on in our own lives and in our communal lives. Our faith is one that puts ultimate value on life and being in right relationship with God and with each other. And when there's something in our world that gets us out of right relationship, that is a faith problem. That is something that our faith asks us to tend to. It's something that our faith tells us we have a responsibility in whatever way that we can. We don't have to take the world on our shoulders, but in whichever small way we can, our faith says we need to do something to heal it, to bandage the wounds, to figure out how we can address the cause of something. As I said early on, I don't believe that our faith is a partisan faith. I don't believe in this Democratic and Republican God. I do believe in a political God, though, a God that sees the divinity of people. And when people are hurting, when people are struggling, when we are hurting, when we are struggling, God has something to say about that. And it's our role as a follower of Christ to try to mend that hurt, to mend that wound, whether it's an individual or a communal wound. That's why we've opened the doors of this church to be communally focused. That's why we've placed a focus on people who are unhoused, people that can't afford diapers or food, people who are struggling with addiction. Because we don't believe we worship a static God. We believe we worship a living God who wants restoration and healing in our world today. These are three things that I hope that you've received from me and my ministry here at this church. These are some spiritual things. And if you were to boil it down, as you could Jesus' teaching, it's simply to love God and love your neighbor, and to do it boldly. That's what I believe. That's the core of my faith. Love God and love your neighbor. And so I wanted to share these kind of three areas to boil down my ministry here. I believe we did sing a new song together. And that is a reflection. But I don't want to spend today in reflection. Today I want to look forward to the future. I want to share what I hope for you here at Central. Earlier this week I was listening to a podcast that was interviewing Brene Brown. And she had taken a year off of podcasting and social media because of some things in her life that she wasn't happy with. And she described hope in a way that I hadn't heard it described before. She talked about what it meant to have hope. And she was talking about the work of another social scientist. And she said that hope is a cognitive behavioral process. She said that hope is a process made out of three elements. The first element is a goal. The second element is a pathway, and the third element is agency. In order to have hope, you have to have a goal, you have to have a pathway to achieve that goal, and you have to have agency to know that you're strong enough to go about achieving that goal. So a person who scores very high on levels of hopefulness has the capacity to set a goal. B has the capacity to develop a pathway and is not afraid to pivot from plan A to plan C or D or F or Q. And finally, a person that has levels of hopefulness has the agency to believe that it's in their capacity to create change or to do something for themselves. I was thinking about this understanding of what hope is. And how I would share my hope for you all here at Central as you move forward, as I pass the baton on to the next person to take the pastoral role here at this church. Central, I hope that you're able to set a goal for yourself. You're able to, in a Christ-centered way, do the work of Christ. Set a goal of what you want to do and who you want to be. Work together as a unit to create who you want to be as a church. And to not hold anything as sacred. When I was a high school athlete, I started taking a speed training course. And we would run and we would do all these exercises to make us a little bit more faster. But one of the exercises that our trainer told us to do was to take a potato chip in our hand between our fingers and to run as fast as we could with that potato chip in our fingers. And if the potato chip breaks, then we know that we're too tense while we run. That we have to learn how to run as fast as we can, being able to hold a potato chip between our fingers. And when we finish our sprint, for that potato chip to still be in one piece. I say that because sometimes we can hold on to who we've been. We can hold on to our traditions. We can hold on to what we think we're supposed to believe so tightly that it breaks what we're trying to do. I hope that you're able, with tenderness and with love, to hold on to the history of this church, to hold on to everything this church provides, but not be tied down to it, not hold on to it so tight that we choke the life out of it. I hope that you're able to create a goal from you all, the people of this church who are the church, a goal of who you want to be and how you want to do it. These core values that we created 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Our vision, our mission, do we still want to be that? This is being laid in your lap. And I pray that you'll be able to, as a group, create a goal. And not just create a goal, but create a pathway, create a plan to live that out. It doesn't matter how big you are, how many people you have. It doesn't matter what the church looks like. If you have 2 people, if you have 100 people, you can create a pathway to achieve your goals. And like Brene Brown says, be able to have the flexibility that when you try something, see that it doesn't work, try something else, and then try something else. That's the fun part of achieving our goals, is realizing how we're going to do that. And then the last one I think is the most important, and that is agency. Central, for 207 years, you have been a church here in Danbury. Whether it was meeting in a house, meeting on Liberty Street, or meeting here. I hope you know that you have a long line of ancestors that have done the work to be the church here in this city, and you can continue to do the same. Imagine what the people in the Liberty Street Church experienced when they showed up for a youth group Sunday night and saw the church burn down. Imagine it was a pretty hopeless feeling. But they had the agency to know that they wanted to continue their ministry. And they banded together. And they put pools of money together, and they were able to build this church here on West Street. You have the agency to do whatever you want to do. Going back to that pathway, whether you have 2 people or 100 people, you have the agency to do something. And I don't want you to give up hope that that is impossible. I want you to know how strong you are. I want you to know that you have the ability to accomplish whatever goals you set out. if you seek to do that. You're going to create a new song. The background on the scripture is that this psalm was written during the time when the people of Israel were returning from exile back into Jerusalem. And they had to figure out how the people that were exiled coming back to the people that never were exiled, how they were going to work together. They had to sing a new song. And this song comes as a reflection of Moses' song when he comes out of Egypt. Moses sings a song in Exodus after the Exodus is over. And that's where this psalm comes from. It's a recollection of that song that they start to sing when they come back from exile. And they started to work together with God's help, with God at the center. With God at the center, that's an important piece. It's not us at the center, it's Christ at the center, to do Christ's work. They came together and sang a new song and headed into the promised land. There were many changes along the way. There were many wrong courses along the way, but they eventually got there, singing this new song. Central, I know you don't know what the new song will sound like just yet. But I promise you, by working together in relationship, by having hope and hopefulness, by working together, creating goals and pathways, and understanding your ability and your strength to accomplish those, a new song will be created. And it will be a beautiful song. One that the heavens can hear and sing along with. And so, Central, I leave as I arrived, praying that you will sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. Amen.